Well, have you ever woken up on your birthday and realized no one remembered? No messages, no calls, nothing at all. Just another ordinary Wednesday morning, but it hurt like a fresh cut. I used to think no matter how much life changed, at least on my birthday I wouldn't be completely forgotten. But this year, I was wrong. My name is Mark Sullivan. I'm 42 years old, currently living alone in Tucson, Arizona. 3 months ago, I moved here from Ohio for a new job. Just a regular office job at an insurance company. New city, new life, and sadly, a new kind of loneliness. I have no family here. Most of my friends are far away, or we've just lost touch over the years. That morning, I woke up, like I do every day. Alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. and I sat up, told myself happy birthday, Mark, and gave a half-hearted smile to no one. No birthday cake, no surprise breakfast. Just a quiet little apartment, uncomfortably silent with the steady hum of the air conditioner. I picked up my phone. I still had hope, like a small, flickering light. But there were no messages, no missed calls. Social media was oddly quiet too, just a few ads and a reminder to pay a bill. The edge of my bed, phone in hand, eyes staring at the glowing screen, and it felt like something just dropped in my chest. The kind of person who expects big gestures, but I thought, at least Tom, my best friend from college, would text me. Or maybe my mom, even though she's in a nursing home, would still remember the day I was born. But no one. I went to work like usual, though I felt completely hollow inside. My coworkers, mostly younger, busy, and distant, didn't know what day it was. I don't blame them. I never mentioned it. But deep down, there was a part of me that wanted someone to notice. After work, I decided to treat myself to dinner, not at home. Being there would have just made me feel more alone, but at a little diner a few blocks away. Elliot's Diner, a place I'd been to a few times. Cozy, a little nostalgic, and most importantly, not too crowded. I got there around 6:30 p.m. Spring evenings in Arizona still carry a bit of chill. A light breeze moved through the trees outside the diner, and the warm yellow lights glowing through the windows felt kind of welcoming. I walked in and took a seat near the window. It was quiet inside, just a few older folks having dinner or reading the paper. The waitress brought me a menu and smiled warmly. "Dining alone tonight, sir?" I smiled back, just a little. "Yeah, it's my birthday," I said, not sure why I shared that. She looked surprised. "Oh, happy birthday," she said, then quickly jotted down my order. Roast beef with mashed potatoes and a soda, no ice. I sat there, staring out the window. People passed by, some in pairs, some in groups. A few were laughing loudly. One woman cradled a baby in her arms. I felt like a ghost in the middle of the world. Forgotten. And maybe I had already accepted that today would just be a quiet, lonely birthday. One more day fading into the rest. What I didn't know was that things were about to change. There I was, sitting alone at a window table, the clinking of forks and knives echoing softly from the other tables. A normal evening for most people, but for me it felt like a mirror reflecting the loneliness slowly eating away inside. The roast beef had just been placed in front of me. It smelled great, steaming hot, but inside I felt cold and numb. I wasn't hungry. I just didn't want to go home too early. At least here there were lights, there were voices, there was something. My right, there was a middle-aged couple, probably in their 50s, whispering things to each other and chuckling softly. The man reached over and brushed his wife's hair behind her ear, and there was such tenderness in his eyes it made my chest tighten. To my left sat 3 young women, co-workers maybe, laughing as they talked over each other about some birthday gift one of them had just received. I picked up my fork, poked a piece of meat, then set it down again. I was surrounded by strangers on my own birthday, and not a single person here had any idea who I was. My mind drifted back to the birthdays I used to know. On my 25th, Tom and I drove down to Nashville, played live music, drank craft beer, and stayed up way too late. On my 30th, my mom baked my favorite apple pie and my dad made peppermint tea. We all sat on the porch, listening to the soft chirping of crickets in the garden. I closed my eyes. All of that? Now just memories. Dad passed away 6 years ago from a stroke. Mom's been struggling with memory loss, now living in a care facility in Columbus. The last time I called, she only recognized me after 15 minutes. "Mark, that's my boy," she'd said, her eyes lighting up and welling with tears at the same time. I opened my eyes. The food was still in front of me, untouched. I couldn't eat. Look, the soda. The cold stung my chest. Had I made a mistake moving here? Had I given up too much just to start over in a place where I didn't know anyone, and no one really knew me? Tucson is beautiful, sure. Sunny, peaceful. But what's the point of beauty when your deepest conversation each day is with the office coffee machine? And then I felt a wave of embarrassment toward myself. A 42-year-old man with a steady job and a good education, sitting alone on his birthday, quietly wishing that someone, anyone, would just notice him and ask, "Are you okay?" I cut my knife and started cutting into the roast beef. Slow bites, slow chews, slow swallow. Every movement felt like it had to push through the weight of everything I was carrying inside. Without meaning to, I looked up and caught the eyes of the waitress from earlier. She was standing near the register, and she smiled at me. Not one of those polite, practiced smiles, but something softer. "Worf." I nodded back slightly, then looked down at my plate. She turned away. Right then, I thought to myself, maybe I'll just head home soon. I gave it a try. I came out. I ate something. I did what I could. I'll go home, put on a movie, tell myself happy birthday one more time, and go to bed. Tomorrow's just another day. I waved her over for the check. She came back to the table, slipped the bill onto the table, and then, quietly said, "Can you stay just a little longer?" I blinked, surprised. "Why?" She just smiled and said, "Trust me, just a few more minutes." I was confused, but before I could ask more, she turned and walked briskly toward the little bar area where a microphone sat next to the jukebox. I watched her go, unsure of what was happening. A few other patrons started glancing over at her. The music in the diner faded. Everything slowed. I still didn't know what was coming. And I couldn't have imagined that the moment about to happen would change not just my birthday, but how I saw the kindness of complete strangers. The diner fell quiet. It felt like the whole room had... I was still in my seat, one hand loosely holding my soda, eyes fixed on the waitress now standing by the mic. She looked at me again, and there was something in her gaze, something tender, as if she knew exactly the kind of emptiness I'd been holding on to all night. And just that moment when our eyes met, a wave of memory surged back, crashing over me like a broken dam. I remembered my 12th birthday. Mom had gotten up early to make smiley face pancakes. Dad had hidden a little gift under my pillow, a red model car I'd been wishing for all summer. We all sang happy birthday together in that cramped old kitchen of our little house in Lebanon, Ohio. The walls might have been peeling, but the love was thick in the air. Then came my 18th birthday. I was knee-deep in college prep, stressed and exhausted. But Tom, my best friend since middle school, had secretly planned a little backyard get-together. He brought his beat-up guitar, played a silly song just for me, and we all sat in a circle by the fire pit, dreaming big dreams about the life after high school. Then, my 30th. Maybe the last time I felt truly loved. Mom was still healthy back then. She made her famous Southern sliced roast, my absolute favorite. The whole family was there. My brother, his wife, and their noisy little kids running wild around the house. I can still picture the sunlight pouring through the curtains, soft jazz playing on the radio, and Mom smiling as she watched everyone laughing and eating together. So now what? I'm sitting in a strange city, far from everything I used to know. Dad is gone. Mom barely remembers my name anymore unless someone reminds her. And Tom, my best friend, he moved to New Jersey, has a family now, and we barely talk. The people who once made my world feel full have slowly drifted away. I tightened my hand around the soda glass, trying to anchor myself to this moment, to now. But it was hard. I didn't drink. I wasn't reckless. There wasn't one big tragedy. Life just happened. People moved on. Things changed. And by the time I looked back, there was no one left standing next to me. It's just as the memories closed in and that quiet ache began to swell in my chest, a voice rose up. "Happy birthday to you." A woman's voice, soft, warm, unpolished but sincere. I turned toward the sound. It was her, the waitress. She was standing by the microphone, singing with a kind of fearless gentleness that pierced straight through the noise in my head. Her eyes were on me, and each word felt aimed directly at my heart. "Happy birthday to you." Heads in the diner began to turn. Few people smiled. A couple sitting by the windows began singing along. Then a group of 3 young women by the bar joined in. Within seconds, the entire restaurant, strangers who had never once looked my way, they were singing happy birthday to me. But what truly knocked the breath out of me was the final line. "Happy birthday, dear Mark." I froze. She knew my name. I had never told her. I hadn't made a reservation. I didn't even use my full name when I ordered. How did she know? It wasn't just a song. Responding to the gap between birthdays I once loved and the quiet, lonely dinner I thought this one would be. And somehow, a stranger had decided I didn't deserve to go unnoticed. I didn't know why she did it. Maybe just out of kindness. Maybe she'd seen someone go through something similar. Or maybe she simply believed that no one should have to spend their birthday alone without anyone saying their name out loud. I raised a hand to cover my eyes, trying to stop the tears. But I knew. The room had already seen them. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel ashamed for crying. At the moment, I wasn't truly alone anymore. The song ended. Gentle wave of applause swept through the diner. Not the loud, rowdy kind you hear at parties, but the kind that says, "We see you, we acknowledge you." I sat still, both hands resting on my knees, doing my best to keep from shaking. The waitress gave me a soft smile and a small bow before stepping away from the mic. A few nearby patrons nodded at me. An older woman near the door gave me a proud thumbs up. I offered a shaky smile, tried to mouth thank you, but no words came out. I was still reeling. How did she know my name? I started to stand, thinking I might head home after all, when someone approached my table. Mid-50s, tall, with warm brown skin, a salt and pepper beard, and neatly combed hair. He wore a worn leather jacket and a gray checkered scarf. In his hands was a small box, wrapped simply with twine. I frowned. I didn't recognize him. He stopped at my table, tilted his head with a polite smile, and said, his voice was deep, calm, kind. "Mind if I sit with you for a moment?" I blinked. I'm sorry, have we met?" Rec room, pulling out the chair across from me. "Exactly, but I used to be a friend of your father's." It skipped a beat. My dad, setting the small box down on the table. "My name is Charles Benton," the man said. "Your father, Greg Sullivan, and I used to work together at a freight company back in 1995 over in Lebanon. He was the finest trucker I ever knew, and one of the best friends I've ever had." I stared at him, trying to verify his words. Through every subtle detail. Nothing fake in his voice, no hesitation in his gaze. And when he spoke Dad's name, There was a softness in his tone, like he was That's surprising, Charles replied with a half-smile. Your dad was humble. He didn't talk much about himself, but we used to drive cross-country together for nearly 3 years. He'd talk about you a lot. Little Mark, he called you. Said you loved model trucks and always asked him every night, "What states did you drive through today, Dad?" I let out a small laugh. That was exactly what I used to ask. Charles leaned forward and gently pushed a small box across the table toward me. Your father passed away so suddenly. Things never got properly settled. But a few months ago, I ran into an old friend in Ohio who told me you'd moved to Tucson. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, until I learned today was your birthday. I still hadn't opened the box. I looked up at him and asked quietly, "How did you know I was here? How did you know my name?" He pointed toward the counter. "The waitress, Emma, is my niece. She works here in the evenings. I asked her to keep an eye out today, just in case there was someone dining alone with your name. When she casually asked, and you let it slip it was your birthday, well, everything lined up." I glanced over at Emma. She was chatting with the cook now, but gave me a quick look, half shy, half proud that their plan had worked. "We just wanted to be sure," Charles added softly. "To be sure you didn't have to eat your birthday dinner in silence." My throat tightened again, not because of shock this time, but because something inside me had started to feel lighter. I slowly opened the box. We'll photograph. Me and Dad. I was about 6 years old, perched on his shoulders next to a big, faded blue truck. My arms stretched out wide like wings. The back written in that familiar slanted handwriting. For Mark, the smallest co-pilot with the biggest heart. I couldn't hold back the tears. I had forgotten this photo even existed. Charles stood up and gently patted my shoulder. "Take up more of your time. Just wanted to say, you aren't forgotten. There are people who remember you in ways you probably never expected." I gripped the photo like it was a piece of my past I thought I had lost forever. For the first time in years, my heart felt warm. Not from grand gestures, but from the quiet, deep presence of people I didn't even know were thinking of me. And maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't be spending this birthday alone after all. I sat there for a long time after Charles left. The photo rested in my hands like a portal back to childhood. Detail came alive. The sunlight on my forehead, my father's proud smile, the faded blue of that truck's paint. For a brief moment, it was like I had been taken back, just for one breath, to the man I had once looked up to more than anyone else in the world. I didn't leave yet. Part of me wasn't ready to let go of the moment. But another part sensed there was still more to come. 10 minutes later, just as I reached for my wallet to pay, the lights in the diner shifted, replaced by a warm golden glow from the string lights above the small stage near the bar. The microphone crackled to life. But it wasn't Emma's voice this time. It was Charles. "Just a minute, folks," he said, standing under the spotlight, holding an old guitar. "I'm no singer, but tonight I'd like to sing a song, not to impress anyone, but to honor someone special. Someone who even after all these years is still remembered by those who once knew his father." I felt every head in the diner slowly turning toward me again. Charles sat down on a stool, his hand slightly trembling as he tuned the guitar. Then he looked up, straight at me. "Mark," he said, "your dad loved this song. He once told me. Also, sing this for my boy. When he's grown, needs to know he's never alone." Then the guitar began. It wasn't jazz like I expected. What? A slow, tender country song. "You've got a friend." His voice wasn't polished. It wavered in places. but every note was real. So real it caught in my throat and stayed there. You're down in trouble, and you need a helping hand. And nothing is going right. He didn't sing alone. Emma stepped up beside him and gently joined in on the chorus. Then, something completely unexpected happened. A few people in the diner started singing along. They didn't all know the lyrics perfectly. Some were mumbling, others just smiling as they hummed. The bartender tapped a soft beat on the counter. A mother with a small child nodded to the rhythm. Then as the song came to its final line, the whole diner sang together. You've got a friend. Right after that, Charles looked straight at me and sang, You've got a name. I froze. That wasn't in the original lyrics. But in that moment it felt like a powerful affirmation. That I wasn't invisible. That I wasn't someone the world had forgotten. Emma walked over to me and set down a small cake on a white plate. On top, written in chocolate frosting, were the words, Happy birthday, Mark. Not happy birthday, stranger. Not some generic printed greeting. It was my name. Written by hand, a little crooked but full of care. I laughed. A real laugh. The first genuine one in years. Not forced. Not polite. I turned to Emma and whispered, Thank you. She tilted her head with a soft smile. You're not thanking me, she said. You're thanking yourself for staying till the end. Not everyone has the courage to do that on a lonely birthday. Nay, my eyes stinging again. But this time, I didn't bother to hide it. As I took my first bite of cake, realized the sweetness didn't come from the sugar or the chocolate, but from something I'd forgotten for a long time. I didn't need a big party. I didn't need hundreds of online wishes. Just one person, or a small group, who truly saw me. You still matter. That night, I walked out of the diner into the cool desert breeze. My father's photo was tucked safely in my shirt pocket. I took the rest of the cake with me, not because I couldn't finish it, but because I wanted to carry a little of that sweetness. Just a bit longer. I didn't know what would come after tonight, but I knew one thing for certain. I would never forget the name Mark, and I would never forget the night my name was sung, as a gift. After leaving the diner, I didn't drive straight home. Instead, I wandered through the back streets of Toustone, roads I'd driven 100 times before. But tonight, they felt new. It wasn't the streetlights. It wasn't the night air. It was me. Something had shifted. Like taking off a backpack I'd worn for so long. I misunderstood I'd forgotten how heavy it was, until someone helped me lift it off. I stopped at a rest area along the highway, turned on the radio, kept the volume low, rolled down the windows. The desert air drifted in, carrying that quiet, dry scent of the night. I looked in the rearview mirror, whittled my face. But the eyes were different. I didn't see a lost, forgotten Mark anymore. Tonight, I felt present. I was here. For the first time in a long time. I wanted to do something. Not just survive, but live. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. My head still foggy, but my heart strangely clear. I pulled out the old photo of me and Dad, framed it, and placed it on the bookshelf. Next to it I stuck a small note. It read, I'm still here. Not a reminder. That afternoon I called Charles. The first time in years I'd voluntarily dialed someone. Mark, he answered on the second ring. You doing okay? Better than I thought I would, I said. I wanted to thank you for everything. No need for thanks. Your dad did so much for me. Kept me from going under. Lent me money when my wife got sick. This was the least I could do to repay him. Paused for a moment, then said, I've been thinking, maybe I should get out more, Do something meaningful. Not just for others, but for myself. Mr. Charles laughed heartily. Perfect timing. I'm helping out at an old truck repair station. The owner's an old friend of your father's. A lot of young folks come there to learn, but they need someone with experience to guide them. Want to give it a try? I hesitated. Someone who had withdrawn from the world for so long, could I really fit in again? But then I remembered the song from the night before. That final line he sang. You've got a name. I nodded, even though I knew he couldn't see me. I'll come. 3 weeks later, I had my first shift at the repair shop off Highway 19, a place where long-haul trucks often stopped for rest. I wasn't a top mechanic, but I knew enough to guide the young apprentices. I shared old stories, sometimes talking about my dad like a quiet hero. The kids seemed to enjoy it. They called me Uncle Mark. It sounded a little funny, but warm. At night, I often drove around and ended up back at the same little diner. Emma still worked there, always smiling when I walked in. One evening, she handed me a folded piece of paper with a handwritten note. Remember the song from that night? I think you should be the next one up there. I chuckled and shook my head. But deep down, I thought, maybe. I started keeping a journal, just a few lines a day. One day I wrote, I smiled 3 times today. Another day. The loneliness came back, but it was softer this time. I wasn't expecting my life to be dazzling. I wasn't waiting for a miracle, but I knew I had stepped onto a new kind of journey. Not one that carried goods or materials, but one that carried meaning. One night, light rain fell. I pulled over on a quiet highway, rolled down my window, and let the rain hit my face. I turned on the radio. It happened to be playing, You've Got a Friend. I smiled. Not because it was a coincidence, but because I finally understood. My name is Mark. I had once fallen, once disappeared inside my own life. But I could come back. For importantly, I wasn't alone. Saturday night, the little diner where I once had a lonely birthday felt livelier than usual. Maybe because the rain had finally stopped after 3 days. Or maybe because someone whispered there'd be a special performance later that evening. Wasn't sure if I was part of the plan, but Emma had texted me earlier. Wear your white shirt tonight, and don't even think about running off. I laughed and pulled out the shirt I hadn't worn in 3 years. The mirror showed a Mark who looked a little different. Not younger, not better looking, but more awake, like someone who'd just come out of a long sleep. When I walked into the diner, Mr. Charles was polishing his guitar at the counter. He looked up, smiled, and said, Right on time, just like a real trucker. Before I could reply, Emma appeared from behind the counter and handed me a folded sheet of paper. You'll be singing this one, she said. Mr. Charles and I will back you up. I looked at the paper. It was the lyrics to Stand By Me. Song. Easy to sing, easy to feel. But for some reason my heart pounded. You sure about this? I asked, trying to hide my nerves. Emma smiled. Sometimes people don't realize what it means to have someone stand by them until they're the ones standing by someone else. You've done that for more people than you know. The performance began. I stood on stage, holding the mic, still in disbelief that I was actually doing this. The light above me was soft. In the dim crowd, I saw familiar faces. Mr. Charles, Emma, regular customers, even the kids from the repair shop. I took a deep breath. The intro music started. And I sang. The night has come, and the land is dark. The moon is the only light we see. No one clapped. No one shouted. Silence, that warm, respectful silence, told me they were listening with their hearts. I wasn't scared anymore. Because in that moment, I wasn't just singing for them. I was singing for myself, for the little boy who lost his dad, for the man who had once felt invisible in this world, for Mark, who once thought he had no one left. When I got to the final line, Darlin', Darlin, stand by me. And helping me realized I wasn't alone on that stage. Someone had stepped up beside me. A woman, around my age, lightly curled brown hair, deep brown eyes that seemed to carry something unspoken. She held a second microphone, looked at me, and joined in. Oh, stand by me. The whole diner erupted into applause. I was stunned, but didn't stop. We sang the rest of the song together. Two voices, one shaped by pain, one carrying gentle warmth, blending into a simple tune filled with healing. When the song ended, I turned to her. I don't think we've met. She smiled, shy, but kind. I'm Allison, she said. I was sitting in the corner of the diner that night, on your birthday. She nodded. I come here every year on my brother's birthday. He passed away in an accident 7 years ago. This is how I remember him, by sitting alone, ordering his favorite meal. Her voice softened. Just struck by how two lonely people could sit so close, yet not realize how close they were. I'm really glad you joined in tonight. Me too, she smiled. My brother's name was Max. Your name's Mark. I think he would have liked that. Kept quiet for a moment, then I asked, so, will you be coming to the diner again next year? She looked up at me, gently. Leader, you sing again? Then absolutely. That night I drove home with a new song in my heart. Not Stand By Me, not You've Got a Friend, but a melody without lyrics. One made of hope, connection, and new beginnings. I, Mark, the man who once spent his birthday alone, had learned something. Sometimes, you just have to sit still long enough for someone to find you. When that happens, your name will be sung. Your pain will be seen. You will no longer be a stranger in your own story. Mark's journey is a heartfelt reminder that sometimes, the smallest gestures, a birthday wish, a glance, or a song, can change a life. In a world that often feels cold and fast-paced, it's easy to forget that someone around us may be quietly carrying their loneliness. Kindness, a moment of genuine connection, can bring hope to others and to ourselves. Even after falling, everyone deserves a chance to be heard, to be seen, and to start again, right where they thought it all ended. What do you think about Mark's journey and the moment that changed everything for him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more real-life stories that touch the heart and celebrate the beauty of human connection.